we'll keep you up to date on that as we welcome in, brought to you by Jiffy Lube from The Athletic, Samuel Amick. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Oh, good. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
We got pimento cheese sandwiches here, Sam. Have you ever had a pimento cheese sandwich?
Probably somewhere along the way, but don't have like vivid memories. But I'm sure it's lovely and tasty. Hopefully.
Well, they're not passing around pimento cheese sandwiches in the Denver front office. That's
hey,
thank you. That's for sure. Sam, I'm not going to ask you if you saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming, but we tried to rank in order weirdest things to happen this year. The Luka trade number 1, Taylor Jenkins third. I think Michael Malone pulls up second in this whole thing. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I would agree with that power rankings. Also respect your lack of King's presence in that list.
I have fourth. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. To pull the curtain back on the media side, I was planning on writing a story going into the postseason that highlighted a lot of the dynamics that ultimately exploded the other day, meaning like some stuff that wasn't really widely discussed was, for one, and it was known but not emphasized, that like Calvin Booth, the GM, was in the last year of his contract. So I was going to get into that and the fact that like he had come really close to an extension and then suddenly he didn't have an extension and they pulled it off the table. You also had Michael Malone with multiple years left on his deal, but his assistant coaches, and this is not really normal, none of his assistant coaches had contracts beyond this season. So the story was going to be like, not only are the Nuggets struggling on the court, but there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety off the court because nobody has contracts. So I was very annoyed when this happened when it did, because it screwed up my plans, you know. But like all those same dynamics that we did know about, you know, just came to a head. And what I didn't, you know, have on my bingo card was Josh Kroenke, the team president and son of the owner, Stan Kroenke, just going full metal jacket and top roping it and saying, okay, Calvin Booth, you're gone. Michael Malone, you're gone. And David Adelman, you know, kind of a prodigal son, not prodigal, but beloved son of kind of by proxy of Kings Nation. You're up next and take over the Nuggets. So yeah, a lot of action the last couple of days.
Yeah. So Sam, you were around there yesterday, saw you last night. I was wondering what you learned about kind of that and the inner workings, because no offense to Calvin Booth, but the GM decisions they're coming up next. As far as he's already built the roster, there's no real moves to be made now. Whereas Michael Malone had games left to coach and maybe a playoff run or not to have happen. The organization to feel they're better off with someone else with 3 games to go, to me is just amazing. But what did you learn last night being around the Denver folks about why this ultimately happened with Coach Malone?
Well, you know, I'm always good for one shameless plug a week. We just published a pretty robust 3,700 word story on it. Did our best to try to explain it. And the short Cliff Notes version of it is that as great of a coach as Michael Malone is, and I do believe that, he had definitely lost his team. And the negativity, the intensity, the lack of consistency with how he handled certain players, you know, for years, everybody kind of understood that, you know, Joker and Jamal Murray might get a little bit different treatment, but that, you know, a lot of this year was all of a sudden extended to Russell Westbrook, who, you know, in the lexicon of NBA history might deserve special treatment, but in 2025 in Denver, you know, doesn't in the eyes of a lot of players. And so I feel like Michael's, the very thing that makes him great just, you know, ended up kind of wearing on his team, you know, at the end. And 10 years is such a long time. It's a lifetime in NBA coaching. But, you know, the general spirit of what was shared with us was that players were exhausted by the emotional roller coaster. You win a few games and everybody's family and you love each other, and you lose a couple games and you're just absolutely getting reamed by the coach on a regular basis. So that was exhausting. And David, I think what we tried to highlight in the story, that hopefully we did it enough, is that like everybody's shocked by the timing. Well, I think a big part of the timing is the Nuggets' belief in David Adelman and the fact that they think he's going to be a really good coach and that they might have lost him this summer. He's not only is his contract up, but Portland, if they part ways with Chauncey Billups, excuse me, is expected to be interested, and Chauncey's future is uncertain. But, that's just a name that's been tied to Portland. So bottom line, it's like if you want to take a crack at David right now, see what he can do, and maybe have the inside track on having him be the next guy, then you had to make this move right now.
Sam Amick joining us. When you couple that with Taylor Jenkins, which blew everybody away when that happened, considering where Memphis was, almost exactly where Denver is, and the fact that it took place so late in the season. We had a conversation yesterday, Jason. Look, in over in Europe, this is actually quite common. Teams going into the playoffs, they're trending poorly. Owners, GMs, all that, they know what's going on in the locker room. If somebody's lost the locker room or the team feels like it needs a bump and or you have a feeling you're going to let that manager or coach go anyways, they'll let him go. It's not uncommon at all to 3/4 of the way through the year get rid of the head guy and bring somebody in, and you generally will see a bump, in part because coaches' salaries don't have anything to do with the salary cap. Could you see this, I don't want to say becoming more the norm than the exception, I don't think that'll ever happen, but could you see this happening more, especially if Memphis and or Denver see success in the postseason?
Yeah. I mean, I think right now that's the only answer there is yes, for sure. Especially because when we wrote this and turned it in, one of our editors questioned it because it seemed so strange. But we wrote that the Denver Nuggets, we were told, were actually impacted by Memphis's choice, that they found it interesting and logical. And that's a small factor. It's not like they just said, let's do what they did. But it was the same spirit of it. Have less problematic leaders, if you will, people who have less baggage. The energy in the room was so bad in Memphis, that they wanted to shake it up. Same thing in Denver. So, yeah, if it works, I could see it happening, especially if you have a situation where a guy like David Adelman, when I asked him last night, how did you handle your voice differently today? And did you address the team? How did you handle your responsibilities once the news came out? And he was like, I've been talking to these guys for 8 years. They know my voice. They know who you know what I mean? It was very easy for him because he has all this kind of institutional knowledge and capital built up with their group that, to me, it's not really, you're not looking at this going, oh my God, how is David Adelman going to figure out how to be a head coach? I think that's probably going to be fairly seamless, and you don't have all the pent up, kind of anxiousness and frustration that was possibly dogging you down to begin with.
Sam Amick of The Athletic, brought to you by Jiffy Lube, joining us. Sam, I think you worded that perfectly about Michael Malone, kind of the same thing that got him to where he became a winningest coach in Denver and led him to a championship. That fiery, open, very honest approach to the media as well, maybe sometimes too honest, some of the stuff he would say about his team, maybe ultimately at the end was a bit frustrating for some of the players. So with that said, I mean, he's been successful. Maybe it's a shorter shelf life for him in another organization, but do you see him getting another head coaching job if he wants it?
I mean, I think his reputation's in a good place. I just think an owner, is going to have to make sure that they're comfortable with his level of intensity, because I don't think it's an overstatement to say he's the most intense coach in the NBA. And it's honestly kind of been somewhat I don't know what the word is, underplayed publicly. And so you guys know, we knew him in Sac. And was it a mistake to fire him at the time in Sac? Of course, especially when DeMarcus Cousins was out with meningitis, and that's indisputable. But there are things from back then when it was similar stuff that related to I guess the point being that you got to understand the whole package. So when he felt the walls closing in at Sac, then it was it's time to get in my bunker with whoever's with me, and if I have any doubts about you, then you're on the other side. You know what I mean? It's not an uncommon trait with coaches too. Tom Thibodeau is kind of that way. So with all that in mind, yes, I think he's going to be someone who certainly gets discussed. and on that short list for all these jobs. And really, if we're being kind of critical about it, like, his accomplishments far exceed Taylor Jenkins. Taylor did a nice job in Memphis, but Michael's got a championship resume now. He's got something in Sacramento that speaks well of his reputation with, aged well, I guess, over the course of time. His Golden State impact was there when he was an assistant. So, yeah, I think he'll be in the mix for stuff.
Sam Amick joining us. Sam, I got a question for you. Just obviously it's a guessing question. I'm just curious what you think. Would David Stern have rejected the Luka Doncic trade to LA?
No, because the one part that always gets glossed over with the Chris Paul stuff was the unique dynamics that came with New Orleans,
the ownership
for sale.
Yeah.
And the league having overtaken operations. I mean, that part always, people think that David just came in and was just like, nah, this trade's not okay.
Right.
No, he was overseeing the franchise. And so I absolutely don't think he would have blocked it. I understand the question for sure, but no, I don't think he would have blocked it.
Just reading yesterday as more comes out about it, and obviously with Luka returning back to Dallas, the franchise is set to or is on pace to lose hundreds of millions of dollars over the next few years. Season tickets are in the tank. You've got the fired Nico chance. I'm not asking for Congress to open an investigation, and we've seen bad trades before. I just think the thing that still stays a little bad taste for a lot of us is just the lack of open market, the lack of when you look at what when you look at what the Lakers got, or should I say Dallas got for Luka Doncic, and you look at what the Spurs got in that trade, I mean, they're actually not crazy far off. And when you look at Rudy Gobert, 4 first-round draft picks, Mikal Bridges, 5 first-round draft picks, Donovan Mitchell, 4 first-round draft picks, and then it's an aging, brittle Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and something. I keep trying to be a contrarian and try to defend Nico somehow, and I'm having trouble doing it, Sam.
You can only defend Nico for, and attack the equation, which is like the choice to trade Luka. Like, you're going to be in the minority, but you can get there.
Yeah.
As an argument.
That's right.
But once you get to what he got in return, there's nothing to talk about. So I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, they continue to act as if the secrecy was necessary because, if the star player knows that you're going to trade them, then if you don't, then it's a wash. Well, then guess what? Then you just decide to trade them.
Right.
And you are guaranteed 1,000 times out of 1,000 going to get more than what you got. So no, I think what you're saying is fair.
In Dallas last night, they probably had to go through that too. Like, that's the first time. It's emotional. We saw Luka's emotion. It was really, really amazing theater to watch. Then Luka goes off and beats them. And but kind of sticking with Dallas, and we now know for sure that's who the Kings play, whether it's in Dallas or more likely here. Kind of your thoughts on Dallas. I think when it happened, look, nobody thought the trade was amazing for the Mavs, but with a healthy Kyrie, with AD, with Lively, with Gafford, with Clay, and some of the things you go, well, it might in the short term give them some sort of runway here, but they have been gutted with injuries. What do you look at with Dallas and the Kings in that 9-10 matchup next week?
Yeah, man, I think, they're still going to be tough, as long as they've got AD. That's a tough out. My first thought as you were kind of going through the timeline there is like, it's just wild how much, and I know this is just pro sports, but we're all, we're NBA heavy here. Like, it's wild how much can transpire in the course of the year, just because for Dallas, you talk about, going back to that back-to-back set of games against the Kings last season when the Mavs and the Kings were neck and neck in the standings right after the trade deadline. And then the Kings fall back, the Mavs surge ahead to the finals, and then full circle, the Luka trade, all this stuff. And here they are neck and neck again with what feels like a million developments for each team along the way. It's just insane how much both organizations have gone through since then. As far as the game, it's two mediocre teams that will slug it out. We'll see what happens. But I know, like always for the Kings, we say that the historical context is still there. Like getting to the playoffs, for the second time in 3 years would not be nothing. So I don't know how the players feel in terms of their level of passion and kind of burning desire to make that happen. At times they've obviously looked good lately. Last night notwithstanding, but yeah, we'll see if they can pull it off.
Back to Denver. It was announced today Josh Kroenke will take over as president of basketball operations while they search. Is that, I know if I heard that here, I would lose my mind, as would a lot of fans, but does that seem that out of pocket for you, or is it a matter of course while they find someone else? Does that ring any bells for you, alarm bells?
Josh being the interim president?
Yeah. Not really.
No, I mean, he was before.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then go ahead.
He's a pretty, I just think, to me, and I'm like a big critic, I guess, of nepotism within the league, but he's one of the few that I have in the Kirk Lacob type vein, where it's like he's got a good reputation, and he's got a reputation. He's a guy who does know the game, a guy who is well liked among the team, and yeah, he's had that position before, so it's not like daddy's son coming down out of nowhere. Like Josh has been a leader in that franchise for 10, 15 years.
And are you buying at all the whispers that Jokic being extension eligible? You've heard this, that there was a little bit of lack of whatever between him and Malone, that kind of spooked Denver a little bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we wrote that Joker, along with the other key players, were, tired and frustrated and fatigued by Malone's style. We started hearing noise 2 weeks ago that I mean, and Joker's never the type. He didn't go to management and say, get this guy out.
Right.
He's but he is kind of a wear your heart on your sleeve kind of guy. So Josh Kroenkes of the world, they're not stupid. They see him in the Golden State game when he's exasperated and kind of yelling at teammates about, do this and do that. And why did you do this? He's just kind of losing his mind. When they lost to the Wizards, he was real vocal about the defense being bad, and even behind the scenes was pretty frustrated. So it's kind of like, the weird comparison, but we're all parents here. Like when your kid is acting, out of sorts like that, like you got to figure out why. I guess in that scenario, the Nuggets are the parents. Like they care about this dude and keeping him in Denver, and they knew that something had to change.
Sam, we've seen in the West, OKC run out in front and put up a number that obviously no one's going to catch. And now we've just got this incredible race for 3rd through 8th, basically. And last night, I know you were at the Kings game, but Harrison Barnes, a former King, former Warrior, hits just that killer shot against the Golden State Warriors. This was a team that was playing so well and still can get it together, but just kind of this race that we have now, Sam, here for the last, 3 days of the NBA, 4 days of the NBA season, especially in the West, I think it's going to be pretty good theater for you and everyone else that's covering the league.
Oh, it'll be fun. I mean, last night alone, Jay, is a good example of like, I'm wrapped up in all things Nuggets, trying to follow that situation. On press row, Harrison hits his shot to beat the Warriors, and there's the old adage of no cheering on press row, but people went bonkers just because people were watching it on their laptops, and so that's going on. I completely, I literally, other than knowing that Luka cried at his tribute video and that he scored 45 points, I couldn't tell you anything about that game because I didn't see it. Because there's just a lot of big time action and dramatic stuff to follow. The race itself is fun. I mean, shoot, the Warriors, I think they slid back into what spot are they in now? They're back in the play-in with that. Yeah. So that's huge. You know what I mean? Like that, the Nuggets are another good example. Like the Nuggets are in 4th and literally might still get home court. But they're on the nice edge, just like a team like the Warriors and all these others. And not only that, it's not just kind of meaningless jockeying for playoff position, I do believe, like, as great as OKC has been, and even Boston and Cleveland, like, I don't know. Like, if you ask me, like, the how long the list of teams is that I would be absolutely stunned if they won the title, like, you know, with that particular terminology being the ground rules here, like, that list, like, I could see 6-7 teams winning the championship.
Wow.
You know, which is kind of what the NBA wanted in this parity era.
Thunder, Lakers, Warriors, Cavs, Celtics. Who's your sixth? Trying to figure it out. Knicks, Pacers, Bucks.
I mean, if the Nuggets have a healthy Jamal Murray,
I got you. Okay, Nuggets. Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I think you hit them all.
I figured.
I mean, the Bucks with Damian Lillard too. Dame might come back and probably will. So that's a key factor as well.
As it is right now, as you mentioned, the Warriors are in the play-in, and I got to think the league. I'm being conspiracy guy here, but I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. The league has no problem with it. When you look at the Warriors that host the Timberwolves probably win. Then they'd host the Kings or the Mavs again, probably win. I got to think the nightmare, Jason and I were talking about this the other day, is the one thing the league probably doesn't want to see is Lakers, Warriors first round, 3-6. Or am I overthinking it?
But
Well, you want them later is what you're saying?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that they would want Lakers, Warriors in the first round. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe they'd love it because it kicks off the playoffs. But as, again, Jason and I were talking about this the other day. No matter what, after the first round of the playoffs, you're either losing Jimmy Buckets and Steph and Dre, or you're losing LeBron and Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably flip that and say it's not necessarily just about wouldn't want Lakers, Warriors early, but I mean, like, they probably don't want OKC Houston in the West Finals, or OKC Memphis.
Or OKC Cleveland in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very real possibility.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's funny when OKC and Cleveland had those two games in pretty close proximity to each other. If I'm correct, like in this regular season I'm talking about, like the ratings were good. And there was a good discussion being had about how, like, the league's going to have to continue to try to lean into, like, don't have, 20 of your 30 teams be the redheaded stepchild.
Right.
You don't just keep, LeBron and Steph have already, kind of carried the water for you way longer than we thought they were going to be able to, in terms of their age, but you got to get new tricks, and that means talking about SGA. That means highlighting what the Cavs are doing, and really it's the larger discussion about emphasizing the positive parts of the game that I do think are in a pretty good place, and getting fans excited about the teams that aren't in the marquee cities. All of that being said, the biggest no-brainer in NBA ratings, kind of calculus is Lakers Warriors for sure.
That same Amick brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Read him at The Athletic. You can subscribe for, I don't know, it's super cheap. Like, it's always, hey, 1 cent a month to The Athletic. I pay quite a bit more, but you know what?
The whiniest athletic subscriber
just saying,
of them all.
Like,
cut them off, Sam.
But it's worth it. I'm still waiting for my athletic hoodie, but whatever. That's a whole different topic. Sam, Matt Barrows.
Send me half of what you're paying personally, and then you can have my log on.
That's a great point. Why don't I just subscribe directly to you? Send me a hat every year, dude. Like a signed Sam Amick hat. We can actually get some gear going. That's a great idea.
As long as you don't, as long as you agree not to comment as me in the comment section.
Oh, that's half the fun.
No guarantees.
Sam joins us each and every Thursday at 8 a.m. Sam, thank you so much, buddy. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, guys. Be good. Thank you.
Take care. As Sam Amick. We'll take a break. When we come back, hey, we got ourselves a game last night. We got ourselves a Kings Rewind. Jason and Chris have been